Interesting times, interesting conversations. Many times we don't like to hear these conversations because they tend to weigh down on our emotions. They tend to weigh on our persons. But at the end of the day, what happens? You don't want to hear some things, you don't want to see some things because it's like a burden to your emotions and mental health. But many times, we don't even pay attention to this part of the mental health and even our emotional intelligence. Okay, so in all of this entire things, situations that we found ourselves in, good, bad, whatever you want to call it, what is the state of each person's or the society's mental health? Where are we at? Okay, so help us look at this. We have here in the Lagos studio, we have Dr. Peter Ogunubi, who's a lecturer, Department of Psychiatry, College of Medicine, University of Lagos. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Inata.
Also joining us via Skype is Executive Vice President and Mental Health Coach, Slay Services, Leeds, West Yorkshire, England, Sam Lay. Thank you for joining us, Sam.
Hi, good morning.
Let me start off with you, Dr. Gunubi. The protests, the EndSARS protests, the snowballing and all of that. When you look at the whole thing, how much of effect do you think it had on the mental health of the society?
Thank you so much. I can tell you that, just as you said, that people have tendency to look at the physical aspects, the houses that were burned, the businesses, people that lost their lives. But I can tell you that we have more tragedy in the emotional aspect of people. We have more tragedy occurring in the mental aspects. We can count the number of dead bodies, but the unfortunate thing here is you may not be able to count the number of people that will be having a lot of emotional issues. And when you have instability, you have chaos, you have a state of anomie, there are a lot of things that can happen. And as we go into the discussion, I'll be telling you things like post-traumatic stress disorder, which is happening and will even happen later. Talking about acute stress disorder, inability to sleep disorders. We'll be talking about adjustment disorders. We'll be talking about anxiety. We're talking about depression. Many people will now be using different things and different ways to cope. So you have increased rate of addiction to several things, be it addiction to internet, addiction to substance, addiction to pornography, addiction to gambling, as a strategy for coping. You may have issues of displacement in which people now begin to get angry at their employees, angry at their spouses, angry at the children. People cope in different ways and different manners. We call it coping strategies. So a lot of things are happening, a lot of things have happened, a lot of things will still happen to people's emotional health. And that's why I'm happy to be here, so that we can talk about these things and also talk about things people should watch out for, so that they can question themselves and restrain themselves that, oh, I think this is about, I've been inundated with calls. People are practically broken down and cried. People have actually, calls people have called me that, friends, colleagues that I've not heard from for years. And they've engaged me for hours, talking about their emotions, talking about their mind, the way they feel. Some practically broke down. And I can imagine these are just people that have access to me. What about those that do not have access? What about those that don't even have phones?
What about those who don't even know the power of talking to someone?
So it's an avalanche of a lot of emotional disturbances that we are having here.
Dr. Lay, this matter we're looking at is quite sensitive and one that, again, a lot of people hardly pay attention to. The need to talk, the need to be there for someone, the need to understand that what we see, what we hear, what's around us weighs a great deal on the individual inside. How do we change that? Hello, Sam?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking to the doctor because you said doctor. Sorry. Um, so what was the question again, please? I apologize.
The fact that what we're talking about is many times downplayed. People hardly pay attention globally, not just here in Nigeria, but even more
Yeah.
so with the kind of situation we find ourselves in Nigeria. The power to talk, the importance of talking to someone, the the
Mm,
the importance of being there for someone, the importance of even sifting what you hear, what you see, where you go to. How
yeah.
do we come out of
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. I mean, I believe one of the biggest challenges or one of the biggest issues we have is that people don't even accept or recognize that they might have a mental health issue. Because we don't see it. It's not like a broken arm or a patch over your eye. So because we can't see it, people generally don't accept it. And I think, like you said, being able to talk is very important. Being able to be open and recognize that there might be something going on is very, very important. So talking, is it BT said it's good to talk, and it's good to get it's good to understand that what you're going through, you're not the only one going through it. The good doctor mentioned about anxiety. We all get anxious. You might get anxious before you go for an interview. You might get anxious before you go to the doctors. We all get anxious, but when an anxiety disorder comes in, it's when it's so much more that you just again, we all go through that. So recognize that whatever challenges you're going through, there are hundreds and millions of people going through the same thing all over the world. It's not just Nigeria, it's everywhere. In the UK, like the doctor said, we're going through some challenges right now with COVID. Leeds, where I am, is going into tier 3, whereby they're locking everything down. And like the doctor, I'm getting phone calls on a daily basis from people just not sure what to do next. So yeah, sorry, go on.
I'm apologizing that I have to interrupt you because we need to take a very quick break. We'll come back so that I pick it up from that point, getting calls coming at you and what to do about it. Our viewers, do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're discussing protecting your mental health in these times we're in, the pandemic, infodemic, as someone said earlier, and the recent protests that just ended. We have Sam Lay, Executive Vice President and Mental Health Coach, Slay Services, Leeds, Yorkshire, England, and Dr. Peter Ogunobi, a lecturer at the Department of Psychiatry, College of Medicine, University of Lagos. Okay, so Sam, you were talking about being inundated with calls, even in Leeds, where there's a tier 3 of lockdown for coronavirus. Please pick it up from there.
Yes, just because a lot of people right now, I mean, fortunately in the UK, our government can introduce the follow system. However, that's coming to an end. And the follow system is where people are earning 80% of their income. So that's coming to an end. And a lot of people are just struggling with where the money is going to come from. A lot of companies are closing their doors. I went to town yesterday and a lot of shops, they've got signs on them saying closed. And that is people's livelihood. That's people's income. A lot of, it's just a tough time. So it's affecting their mental health. It's affecting they're anxious. I spoke to somebody who said she's now scared of leaving her house. So she's having panic attacks when she steps out. What do you do with somebody like that? And other people don't recognize it. They don't know how to help that person. So one of the things I do is teach people how to help somebody who might be going through a mental health issue. How do you support them? What do you say when you talk to them? How do you encourage them? How do you draw them out to talk about what's going on with them?
Dr. Ogunobi, this entire conversation about mental health, I mean, yes, it appeared the protests were in Nigeria, for instance, the protests were all in the city centers. And indeed, you find out that the action against COVID-19, I mean, abiding to the protocols, you find out, I mean, using Mr. Lee's example in England, but here in Africa, you find out that most of the actions around the urban areas, wearing the masks, social distancing, you hardly find that in rural communities. Is the information about mental health even getting to the rural areas?
Well, I think that is a, thank you so much, Nata, for that question. I think is another issue. I mean, we have myriads of challenges facing us in Nigeria, almost every sector, even health generally. You're talking of budgetary allocation to health. You're not talking of a segment of health, non-communicable diseases. A segment of that non-communicable disease, mental health, no budgetary allocation, payouts of pocket by the persons, the non-passage of mental health bill, no mental health law in Nigeria, very rare and very unfortunate. You're talking of poor resources, human resources. I'm talking about 250, 200, 300 psychiatrists to a population of almost 180, 200 million. So an average of one psychiatrist to 1 million Nigerian. So it is not even enough for the city centers, not to even talk about the community. And that is why, how many community psychiatrists? I'm a community psychiatrist. But the question is, how many? How many? Because there is need for us to go back to the primary health care. That's why WHO made mental health the 11th component of primary health care, so that even from the grassroots, we can pick it. The concept we're having now is the tip of the iceberg phenomenon, where what you are just seeing is just the tip. The cities, Port Harcourt, Abuja, Lagos, and co. But as you have rightly said, we have very limited resources, human resources, mental health services to serve the community. And this is where you will see more of these emotional problems. That poor farmer, that petty trader that is in the village going through all these things. Somebody from Zakibia that has to send yams down to Lagos. Everything is blocked. The yams are perishing. I watched an article, a documentary that talked about tons of mangoes and oranges that were destroyed in Benue State. All these things affecting them at the community level. And most of them are they're just existing and they are not living. They're not having good quality of life. And that is why we still need to go back to the drawing board and talk about really, really improving the mental health and even primary health care. So, with regards to the people in the community, I will say they are not getting the best. They are not, in fact, it is far, far, far more than desired.
But okay, let's begin to look at what should we be doing. Sam, let me begin with you. What should we be doing as per maintaining the mental health, our mental health in times like this? What should we be doing?
Okay. Yeah, I think on a personal level, self-care is very important. An example I always use is when you go on a plane and they say when there's a turbulence and the gas mask comes down, you put your mask on first before you put your child's mask on. So what are you doing to look after yourself? Are you taking breaks? Are you sleeping well? Are you looking after you? So self-care is very important. And then the other thing is to focus on what you can do. Don't focus on what you can't do. So what can you change? What can you affect? What can you control? Don't try and control things that you can't control. Okay? So there's this thing about, do what you can, but forget what you can't do. So those are two things that are the first things I talk to people about. The doctor mentioned the coping strategy. What are your coping strategies? There's good coping strategies and there's bad strategies. Which one are you using? And are you looking after you? Are you talking? Talking is so massive. Sharing, a problem shared is a problem halved. And then also is connections. Your connections, your friends, your family, the people you have around you are the positive. Being able to talk to people around you. So those are just three things I'm going to share about what you can do on a personal level. So the first one really is self-care, looking after you. What can you control? Second one, focus on what you can control. And then just good coping strategies. Again, all this comes down to you. You need to look after you. I mean, I'll let the doctor share a few. I don't want to share everything, so I'll let him share something as well.
Okay. Dr. Gunubi, there was Sam Wasborn says, I was trapped out of Lagos during the crisis, couldn't, out of town during the crisis. I don't know which town exactly. He says, I couldn't sleep for days as I was very worried about the safety of my family in Lekki, still monitoring my blood pressure now. That's at Sam Wasborn. I also know some people who, on that, I think on Wednesday, were really worried. Their phones were ringing off the hook. My phone was ringing off the hook. And, you know, as you're trying to call to say, I'm fine, some other person's calling and all that. So at the end of the day, while somebody's panic or worry is extended to you, so how do you manage?
Yeah, it's a chain reaction. It's a network of chaos. We're talking about coping in time of crisis. This is a crisis period. And as much as possible, anything that is crisis prone is bound to trigger a lot of stress hormone in our body, the adrenaline, the cortisols, and the like. So, first of all, it is important for us to know that whatever we're going through is real. Whatever others are going through is also real. So once you understand that, you also need to understand that you cannot go through a vicious circle. You need to calm down. So this is where the slogan calm down really comes in. Nigerians need to calm down. If it's like you having blood pressure and then situations are coming, you have to tell yourself that I just need to just save my head first and my health. Even when those things are raging. And the analogy that I want to give is that Nigeria should just be like a bird. That bird that is on the tree, a thin tree. And the tree is now planted in the midst of a waterfront. The waterfront will beat on the tree. The tree will swave on one side and swave on another side. But that bird inside the nest on the tree will be sleeping quietly. It is very important that we keep this image in our mind. That bird, despite the fact that the tree will swave on this side, the wind is blowing, the waterfall is blowing, is still sleeping in the nest. That is how do I get my calmness in time of crisis. And that's just as Sam said, it starts with you. Changing your cognition. Knowing that this thing is real, but I need to calm down. I need to also calm people around me down. Be aware of the emotional issues that will be evoked. Know them and know how, by asking questions, by reading materials, by getting educated on how to help myself. If you need to take a break from what you are doing, if you need to sleep more, if you need to talk to a friend, if you need to just divert your attention from all fake news, seek verification for information, check your own biases. There's tendency for your bias to align with the information you are receiving. So check your bias first and make sure. Sage in 1120 said something. He said, the greatest level of wisdom comes from doubting. In doubting, you raise question. And in raising question, you know the truth. Let the word of sage written in 1120 be what we work on. Don't just get everything. And don't just leap with the moment. Be calm. Everybody must calm down.
There are those who've chosen the strategy of just avoiding everything. I don't want to watch TV. I'm not reading the news. I'm not reading nothing. Just let me stay cocooned in myself.
If it works for you. If it works for you. There are people that switch off everything. There are people that refuse to renew their cable networks and all the likes. There are people that just decide to I know friends that say, I'm taking a break. Off, bye-bye. So whatever works for you, and that's what he said, coping strategy. This is not the time to now jump and be posting and be sending. If it's going to trigger unnecessary reaction, this is the time to look at a sense of humor in you. It's not that you are insensitive, but you are just trying to calm down. Otherwise, there will be continuous pumping of adrenaline, continuous pumping of anger. People are angry. I've seen people that talk to me with mixed emotion. Some are disappointed, some are angry, some are vexed. some are enraged, some are locked down, some are in a state of helplessness. That one person called me and said, so now like this, it go the day. Like there's nothing else again to do. Some had a tinge of hope that maybe these things that are happening around will change things. And then all of a sudden, back to the square one way of dealing with issues, and then learned helplessness. And when people are in a state of learned helplessness, it can lead to depression. In which people just feel, oh, when I thought there would be hope in the horizon, now we're back to square one. So life continues. Some have lost businesses and are like, how do I get this thing back again? It's a time to take a break. It's a time to calm down and just know that in every chaos or any crisis, there will be a tinge of opportunity. Look at opportunities around you and latch onto it.
How are you even able to, let me take this to Sam. Sam, how are you able to see the opportunities in the tinge of chaos or crisis when you're not even mentally or emotionally stable? How would you see the ray of hope in the tunnel?
I think a lot of people, how can I put this? It starts with your mindset. So for me, for example, when I wake up in the morning, what do you feed your mind? Because that kind of determines what you can see. So how much news do you digest? Are you putting the news on 24 hours a day? How many hours are you spending on social media? Instead of doing that, could you listen to something positive? So I listen to motivational talks every single day. When I'm in my car, the first thing I plug in is a book, a motivating book. And I think when your mindset is the right place, then you can see things clearly. So for me, it starts with your mindset. What do you see? The people you surround yourself with. You're the sum total of your 5 closest friends. What kind of people are they? If they lift you up, guess what? You get lifted up. If they're positive, you're positive. And when things are positive and clear in your mind, then you just start seeing opportunities. You start seeing things around. So for me, it starts with your mindset and helping your mindset to be in the right place. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, but you also mentioned the people you surround yourself with. So let's look a little bit, and Dr. Gunubi, you're weighing on this later. Let's look a little bit at the role of the people around you. Do they even understand the role? Do we understand our responsibility to each other in a crisis situation?
Well, I think that is where the big challenge is. Again, if the people around you are not the people that needs to be, maybe you need to, which is why you need to recognize about you. You need to recognize where you're at. You need to recognize your coping strategy. If you're in a good place, like for me, when you have different kinds of people, and there's some people whereby I can maybe spend half an hour with, then I know I need to move on because it becomes depressing. Using that word the way I just did. So
Thank you, Sam. Sam, let me get Dr. Gunubi in because I'm told we're out of time. You have like 30 seconds to say our role to each other, our responsibility to each other.
Yeah, it's just, the fact is that whatever is going on now is real. Empathize with one another. Connect. Don't condemn. Connect before condemning. Connect. Know why somebody is doing what he's doing. And instead of condemning that person, learn to educate, learn to support, and not to pull apart.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mr. Sam Lee is Executive Vice President and Mental Health Coach, Slay Services Leeds, West Yorkshire, England. He joined us via Skype. And Dr. Peter Ogunubi is a lecturer, Department of Psychiatry, College of Medicine, University of Lagos. He also has a private practice as well, so he's talking from the practical point of view. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your day with us.
Thank you so much.